Welcome to Taylormade Film Business Podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping you start a successful film production company or any business for that matter. Now, here are your hosts, Bridget and Tony Charles.
Welcome to the Taylormade Film Business Podcast, the podcast dedicated to bringing you everything regarding the film production industry. I am your host, Bridget Charles.
And I am Tony Charles.
The Tony F. Charles, the one and only.
The one and only.
Exactly, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, for joining us again.
Third episode, right?
The third episode.
Wow.
It seems like it's been a lifetime.
I know.
I think we have like really great fans, a great audience, and they've just been providing us feedback. And it seemed like we've been having conversations, ongoing conversations for a while. It's hard to believe it's just the third episode.
Yes, and once again, like always, I'm so pumped to be here. I'm happy to be here with you.
Tony is pumped, guys. You know Tony.
Yeah, especially, come on, I told you, as long as I'm with you, I'm good. I don't care where I'm at, as long as you and I were together. Just like I said last time, we've been together from day one.
Guys, you got to make sure to find a better half that talks that way about you.
Yes. Once again, welcome to our third episode.
Episode.
If you haven't done so, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to hit that bell because we got way more coming your way.
Turn on those notifications,
guys. Way more coming your way.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's all about our experience, what we went through, and why not? You know what I'm saying?
Sharing our experiences so that you don't make the same mistakes that we made. We're going to save you guys time and money when it comes to building your film production company.
And trust me, we made a lot of costly mistakes.
Yes. And for those of you who haven't had a chance to hear about some of those mistakes, be sure to go back and listen to our previous episodes and watch the previous videos so that you can see some of the items that we discussed before. And you can get caught up on this relevant content.
Yes.
So we have so much to share with you guys always. And like we were saying, we've just had so many people reach out and provide feedback on what you guys would like to hear next. So believe us, we have a lot of different topics that we plan to cover. There's no shortage of content because you have actually spoken and we've been listening. We're definitely going to be bringing you guys a lot of valuable information.
It's funny, like people really want to know, do you need to buy or rent equipment?
Exactly. And that's what we're going to be discussing in episode number 3. If you remember back in episode number 2, Tony was itching. He was eager to share that information with you guys regarding renting versus buying. And I actually happened to hold him off into this episode so that he can share this information with you. So Tony, with that being said, why don't we jump right into it? Renting versus buying when it comes to film equipment. But it sounds like you have a preference. Let's start by telling the audience what your preference is.
I think it's very important to know because, like I said, a few people that reached out to us, you read the email, but for me, I don't like it. We did it at first.
You don't like to rent?
I don't like to rent.
Okay.
I don't like to rent because it's a struggle. You remember that morning I had to go to set and we had to take back equipment, traffic, it was a lot going on. And, for me, I feel like if you can't afford to buy your own, it's okay to rent, especially at first, and for us, we did it, like I said, but I think it's important the money that we spent to rent, I think we rented for a few months. I believe maybe like 6-7 months.
Off and on, yes.
Yeah, it wasn't like every day. And I feel like the money that we spent, we could have put that somewhere else, like maybe like a light or a lens or whatever the case may be.
Guys, and just to bring you guys up to speed on what Tony is talking about, in a previous episode we briefly talked about renting versus buying, and he was saying that he does not like the fact that when you rent, and you actually wrap your production, you have to go back to these companies that you rent it from, you have to return equipment from here and there, and not all companies offer everything. So you may end up renting from several different companies, and you're responsible for returning that once you wrap your production.
Most people don't know that. You need insurance because nobody gonna let you leave the store with a $50,000 camera and something happened. I dropped the camera.
Yeah,
and you know, okay, thank you. No,
yeah. So that's one of the cons, definitely, to renting. A lot of people don't realize it. Just as Tony said, they think that when you rent equipment, like you just simply go to the companies and you rent the equipment and you leave, you shoot and you're good to go. Yeah. What most people don't realize is that you actually have to have insurance coverage, and most times that insurance coverage is not cheap.
No, it's not.
You guys know, right, that some of the filming equipment is very expensive. Everything from cameras to lenses to light, like they're not cheap, right? So once you get your quotes for that insurance coverage, I'm pretty sure that you'll be blown away with just how much it costs to just get coverage just to be able to rent equipment. So that's definitely one of the cons to renting.
Especially, you know, as a new company, we understand, you want to have the latest cameras, the latest gear, but at the end of the day, if you can't afford, I'm not telling you can't rent. You know, or maybe if you have a friend or a family member, you know, maybe you can ask, can I use your camera? Can I use your lens and stuff? But for me, like I said, if you can't afford to buy, if you can't afford to invest, why not? Just invest, because you always have to be ready for the next job. You know, a lot of times, you don't know when the next gig gonna come. You know, maybe you don't have time to go to the store to try to rent equipment, but if you already have a few pieces of equipment, that's why I said the money that you're gonna spend to rent, like me, the money that we spent, you know, for the few times that we rented, I think we could have used that money and put it somewhere else.
To actually purchase equipment. That's true.
Yeah.
And I personally feel like that even if you can't just go out and purchase all of your equipment for a full production, you can start with a few pieces.
Yes.
Like you may just be able to get just the camera body, right?
Yeah.
And then actually slowly build up, right? So that you don't always have to rent everything. That way you can supplement pieces.
Yes. And I'm glad you say that, because a lot of people don't understand it. And we didn't just all of a sudden we have a full production, we have cameras, we have light. No, I think we started in 2017, and once we decided not to rent no more, we was like, okay, maybe let's get a piece of equipment here, and we started with a camera, and I think in a few months we actually had two cameras, one A and B camera.
Correct.
You know, it took us at least a couple years to actually, have a complete set of equipment where we can actually go to set now.
Without
we can
having
film
to rent anything.
with our own equipment.
Exactly. And that's a really good feeling.
Yeah.
It's a really good feeling. It's almost, in my opinion, it's just kind of like a peace of mind. You know that it's your equipment, and you still have to be cautious. But when you have other people's equipment in your hand, it's almost pretty much like having your heart in your hand, right? Man. You have to watch it. You don't want anything to be damaged. You don't want anything to go missing, because ultimately you're responsible for it.
Yeah, because sometimes cast and crew, they don't know what's going on.
Correct.
They don't know this camera. I don't own this camera. Exactly. Please don't drop this camera. Exactly. Don't bump into this camera. And once again, like I said, I don't hate the idea of renting. I just basically I feel like it's important to use that money towards a piece of equipment, and as a new company, sometimes, like I said, you don't have to have the latest gear. If you have to start with a Canon, Canon's a great camera. You got great pictures come out of straight of the Canon. So I think if you can start with a Canon DSLR, why not?
And we're not pushing that. We're just saying from a budget perspective, right? So your budget better than anyone. Like you actually hold your wallet, or actually hold your purse. We don't. So you actually know what you can afford to buy, and just start there. Try to get the best that you can within your budget, within your means, basically.
Because me, I didn't know. At first, I was like, I have a camera. I have a film company. No, people, when I remember one time we put the list together, this is what we need to start a film company. And we was like, okay. But, with times, I think it took us like at least almost 3 years to, invest. Every now and then we actually, we need a lens, we need a, C-stands or...
Not every now and then, Tony, and I don't mean to cut you off. When it comes to a film production company, you're always going to need something, guys. Yeah. It's imperative to know from the beginning going in that you're always going to have to put back into your business.
Yeah, the reason why I said that, because I didn't mean to cut you off, because a lot of people, they don't understand it didn't happen overnight. To put this company together. No, It took us years, a couple years at least, where now you know, we can say, okay, we can film. Anybody can actually hire a Taylormade film company to shoot any project because we are ready. Because we don't have to, you know what I'm saying, you know, hey, let's go rent this, let's go rent that, you know. And we still probably can rent, you know, maybe like, yeah, you know, because, like I said, even though we own our own equipment, yeah, we don't have everything. Like you said,
there's always specialty pieces, and that goes to actually renting versus buying. Sometimes, in some instances, it may be better to rent. Well, for me, I would say I think that it's wise to rent for when you need a piece, but you know that you're not going to use that frequently. Yeah. Say that you have a special project and you have a special type of some type of special type of lens or something like that you won't always use. Yeah. You may only use it once a year, right? It may not make sense to just go out and purchase that because, again, they're not cheap, right? They can be very expensive. Yeah. In that sense, it may actually be better to rent. You're only going to use it one time a year. It's just not worth it to actually just go out and purchase that and just spend money on it when it's not a piece that you're going to frequently use. Yeah. So those instances, I think that renting is better.
You're right. Because sometimes, you know, like you said, you know, just like us, I think, you know, Black Magic, you know, I remember like that was the first camera that we rented. Yeah. And we was like, oh wow, I kind of like the way, you know, the Black Magic, you know,
it's the versatility in it.
And that's why that was our first camera. You know, the Black Magic was the first camera that we we purchased, because I think myself, you know, I like the camera itself, and I like the footage that the camera, you know, but the footage that come out this camera is awesome. I think the Black Magic production camera, that was our first camera, like I said, we purchased.
And personal preference for the most part.
Yes.
Again, you have a lot of versatility, and Tony, perhaps on another episode we can talk about some of that versatility, but just for people that don't know, this particular camera gives you so much freedom, range in your post-production process. Yes. You know, actually trying to color your footage, footage and color grading. You just have so much versatility, which is why people love cameras such as the Red camera and the Black Magic, because you're able to do things with those type of cameras, which are considered to be cinema cameras, that you can't actually do with some of the Canon and some of the, you know, like those type of DSLR cameras.
Yes, so. You know, as a new company, like I said, you don't have to start with those cameras, those cinema cameras. You can start with a Canon or Sony. You know, because the thing is, you can still, you know, it's not even about the gear. It's really like it's about the story. Exactly. You know, and I think for us, we were fortunate enough, like I said, you know, we kind of like went through it, you know, and that's why I realized it's important for me to actually buy versus renting, because I can invest that money. You know, and, you know, but like I said, as a new company, that's why, you know, it's important for people to watch our podcast or listen to our podcast, because we're going to give it to you. We're going to give you the real deal. You know, we're going to give you the real deal, and we're not going to hold back, you know, and it's important for us to do that, because we don't want you to make those same mistakes that we made.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. So Tony, going back a little bit, just backtracking to one of our projects where we were actually renting equipment. I remember on one particular occasion, like you stated before, you actually had to, we were actually filming, we had a project and we wrapped, and you actually had to go to set on the next day for a project that you were not filming.
Yes.
And we actually had to return all of that equipment. And when I say all of that equipment, guys, it was so much equipment. Like, I had to make several trips, go all around town just to return it. And when you return it, you have to wait for them to actually check out the equipment to make sure that it's working and all of that. That was the longest day. It literally took me an entire day just to return equipment.
Especially with Atlanta.
Exactly. So prior to that, believe it or not, I was not actually sold on actually just purchasing equipment, because again, it can be very expensive. I'm like, that's a lot of money to put down. But after having to go all around town and return equipment, I realized quickly, like, well, maybe it's worth it to step back and take a look at the budget and just see which pieces we can afford to buy, so that there's, you know, so that on the next time that we decide to actually do our own project, we don't have to rent everything. So it's important.
It feels good to actually own a piece of equipment, because, you know, just like the last project we did, you know, I mean, it was great. We didn't have to
go anywhere to return anything. That's a great feeling.
You know, we use our own, you know, pretty much everything, You know, and like I said, it depends on your budget. You know, most people probably can't afford to buy equipment.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah, and just like Tony said, this is not to brag to say, oh, okay.
Oh,
I
no.
mean, like we own everything, we bought it. It's just to let you guys know that personally, this is our preferences and the reasons behind it. When it comes to having to drive everywhere and take it back, you have to go to other people and get their, to actually rent their equipment, and you have to get coverage on that equipment.
Yes.
You have to actually just be extra cautious, right? You can't even actually go through the process without actually having fear of actually, not being able to finish your production. You don't finish on that day, you have to go back and rent it on another day, another time. That's additional cost. You have to get coverage again for that equipment. There's just so many factors that goes into renting. But by the same token, for those of you that cannot afford to buy, absolutely, you want to start your business. So renting may be where you have to start, and there's nothing wrong with that. No. Again, we just want to give you our feedback and our, our trials and trumps and things that we went through, just so that you're armed with this knowledge so that you can make your own decision.
Yeah, like I said, it didn't happen overnight. We didn't just like wake up one day and say, hey, let's go to the store and spend $150,000 worth of equipment.
Exactly.
No, it didn't happen overnight.
Exactly.
And you have to be humble, because filmmaking business is not easy, because every year a new camera.
It's just like with any type of cameras, computers, or any type of electronics, they're always going to have like a newer version, right?
Yeah, so that's why it's very important to really take time, and we made mistakes,
Yeah, I agree.
We made mistakes because we purchased equipment that, in the beginning, we never used.
Yes.
So that's why you have to be very, very careful when it comes to that, because you going to buy stuff that you probably never going to use.
Exactly. And another thing, Tony, it's so funny, we talk about this all the time. Even if you decide to buy your equipment, when you're not filming, you do always have the option of actually registering so that you can rent out your equipment. Exactly. Some people feel comfortable doing that. Some people don't.
We did that
exactly. And that's actually ways that you can actually make money, and you can try to supplement your income for for when you're not using your own equipment. You can actually rent it out. And again, people, they should have insurance coverage. You don't want to rent to your buddies hey, can you hook me up and I use it? No, because you don't have any guarantee of anything actually being returned to you, number one, and number two, if they damage the equipment, you don't have a way to get it fixed for it, for if they don't have insurance coverage on it. So
just like I said, today's episode is about renting versus buying. And for us, me, myself, I don't like the idea of renting, because I think if you can use that money to buy another piece of equipment that this will be your piece of equipment, you own it. I think this is the way to go for me. But if you can't afford to, it's okay to rent.
Yeah. And Tony, I would personally say just another quick tip for those that just can't afford to go out and purchase everything at one time. Personally, from my experience, and actually from a business standpoint, I would just have to say that if someone was going to start purchasing equipment and they had to choose, some people say that they should start with actually getting lighting first, as well as lenses, because you'll always be able to use that. When it comes to cameras and stuff, you do want to get it eventually, but you'll find yourself having to upgrade. So if you had to choose, would you pretty much agree that they should possibly start with the good set of lenses and lighting and things like that? Those things will never go out of style. You'll always be able to use them. So.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to actually start with lenses.
Exactly. Lenses are where that, and it's so funny. You can actually get a camera body as long as your lenses are on point. Then you can pretty much pull off a pretty good project with the right lenses.
A lot of people need to understand it's not just the camera.
Yes.
You can buy a camera. Okay, you need lenses. You need a shoulder mount. You need you need pretty much a bunch of stuff, a bunch of other pieces to actually make sure you have a full camera, and it's not just the body. The body itself, just like you can pay $50,000 for a camera, but by the time you put everything together, to make that camera function properly is going to cost you.
That's what some people don't understand about certain camera types, kind of like the Black Magic and the Reds. People hear their name and they think that it's dope, right? But then when they look at all of the parts that they have to get to go with it, they're like, oh my gosh. And the thing is, you can have the best cameras in the world, right? But then you don't know how to use it and you don't know how to put on the right gear, then it's a waste. So the bottom line is renting versus buying. Obviously, we prefer that you buy if you can afford it, even if you can't do it all at one time, to build up, to get a piece here here and there until you build your production and
Exactly.
rent in the intern. When you have those special projects and you actually have some things where you have pieces that you don't frequently use, those are the times that we recommend that you rent.
Exactly.
And that's just our opinion. Again, guys, this is our journey, our opinion. It's just what we've been through, and we wanted to share it with you to make sure that you're geared with the knowledge that you need to drive forward.
Exactly. And don't forget, once again, it's very important for you to subscribe to our channel and hit that bell, because we got way more coming your way.
Yep, turn on those notifications, guys. Subscribe, share, comment, the whole nine. And again, you've done a great job at providing feedback on what you would like to hear next.
Yes.
Please continue to do that. And this has been episode 3. We have enjoyed being here with you guys, as always.
Yes.
And please continue to follow us on social media, tune in, subscribe, and we look forward to you tuning into episode number 4. Number 4, guys. Turn on those notifications. I have been your host, Bridget Charles.
And I am Tony Charles.
And we thank you so much for listening to the Taylormade Film Business Podcast. Until next time, stay safe.
Stay safe. Don't forget to wash hands and wear your mask.
Wear your mask. Stay safe, guys. Take care.
You're listening to
Taylormade Podcast.